You ever have one of those weeks where you feel like you're carrying way too much emotional weight, and then someone bumps into you at work and suddenly you're ready to vaporize a planet? Yeah, relatable. On this episode of Moving Panels, we discuss X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Welcome to Moving Panels, ignite the mic. From Gotham's alleys to galaxy's far, we dive in deep, we set the bar. Debates and takes, we bring the heat. Pull up a chair, join a seat. Moving Panels, where fandom takes flight. We review, discuss, and shed the light. Heroes, villains, every epic night. This is your show, your fandom's might.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comics. Today, we are talking about the end of the Fox X-Men franchise, the infamous X-Men Dark Phoenix. And joining me today is a man who works in education along with me, so he knows better than anyone what happens when leadership decisions go sideways and everything starts to spiral out of control.
Amen.
So please welcome Justin Baker. How are you, Justin?
Oh, good. Thank you for having me. One question. Do you know what infamous means? Not entirely sure you do. See if y'all get that reference.
So you and I talked right before we were recording that you actually confused this movie with Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. Just because it's like which bad movie is it?
Yeah,
there's
which
two,
are the bad
two
X-Men
good
movies?
X-Men movies, two bad X-Men movies.
More than two.
In this franchise.
Yeah. So when you first heard that Fox was going to do the Dark Phoenix Saga again, because they had done it in X-Men The Last Stand, what was your initial reaction?
Hopefully it's better than the last one. Was mine, because the one from the original trilogy was not very good.
Yeah, no, it was kind of the same for me. I was cautiously optimistic. Again, Apocalypse wasn't as good as it could have been. I wanted to believe, though, that they had learned from The Last Stand. They had learned their mistakes from that. Maybe had even learned their mistakes from Apocalypse. And so I was optimistic. I wasn't hopeful. I wasn't convinced. Now, were you familiar with the Phoenix story, like from the comics or from the animated series or from X-Men: The Last Stand? Like, what was your knowledge of the Phoenix Saga?
I'm batting 3 for 3 there.
Good.
So yeah, I think we talked about it way back when we did X-Men Season 1 of the animated series. My brother had just paper boxes. You know how, like, as a teacher, we have those boxes that have all the copy paper in them? So he probably had 3 or 4 of those that are just nothing but uncanny X-Men that were under his bed. And I used to, sneak them sometimes when he was gone. And he had the Dark Phoenix Saga. And so I remember reading it. The animated series did a pretty good job with it, and then the original X-Men trilogy, the Fox one from, what was it, early 2000s? I can't remember exactly what year that movie came out.
Yeah, I actually came in through the animated series. I didn't read the comic first. It was through the animated series in the 90s. But even through that, I mean, the Phoenix felt so big of a character, and it felt almost mythic.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, and the emotion behind it too.
It was just one of those, as like kid, I'm a little younger than you. It was my first instance of ever having like a superhero or really even a villain that's just so powerful, on a completely other level than everybody else. It was just a very unprecedented event, I think, for that, that time.
Yeah, man.
Then the internal struggle of, it's not a super villain that's, got all this power. It's not like Magneto had all this power. It's a character you've grown up with, Jean Grey, character you've been reading in the comics, a character you've seen in the TV show. She's been in all the movies. Yeah. And so it's like, what happens when one of your teammates, one of your family members is going through all that stuff.
That's the thing. We had because this was season 3 when they finally did the Phoenix Saga on the animated series. So you had gotten to know these characters. There was emotional stakes involved watching it on the cartoon. And yeah, I went back later and read the comics, and it's the same thing. We of course had these characters for years, and now we've got this story going on where Jean essentially just snaps and becomes somewhat the villain for a run. But now we've got this movie, and so let's talk about it. So X-Men Dark Phoenix was released on June 7th, 2019. It is directed by Simon Kinberg, who was making his directorial debut.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But he had been a producer and a writer for the franchise.
Okay.
He was involved with X-Men Days of Future Past. He had also been involved with movies like Sherlock Holmes and The Martian. So, I mean, you would think he could maybe step into the director's chair.
I mean, I feel like there was a lot of, you could tell it didn't deviate too much from the normalcy of that franchise.
Kind of, yeah.
Much.
There is a little bit of a tonal shift from First Class into Days of Future Past, and then into Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. I will say Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix have a very similar feel to them, but there is a change. I think the 4 movies are not cohesive, I should say.
Yeah,
but Kinberg also wrote the screenplay for this. He said that he wanted to craft a darker, more grounded approach on the Phoenix storyline, which may have been a bad decision. The movie stars Sophie Turner as Jean Grey, with returning cast members James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult. And at the time of the release, the film had been re-edited and partially reshot because Marvel and Fox felt that there were too many similarities with the Captain Marvel movie that had been released. And so many felt that is what contributed to the tonal inconsistencies. I don't know about that, but currently it has a 22 on Rotten Tomatoes, a 43 on Metacritic, but it is kind of higher with the audience. So there is a portion of the X fan base out there that actually defends this movie. If you've never seen it, as of the time of this recording, it is available on Disney Plus, like most Marvel movies are. So
go give it a
Justin,
watch.
Yeah. If you got 2 hours to waste, sure.
No, even longer Justin, if it's X-Men Apocalypse.
So Justin, do you remember any of the production drama around this movie as it was coming out?
Probably a little bit after it came out. I kind of remember people complaining about it, and then it kind of got leaked about the reshoots and how similar it was to the Captain Marvel, especially the space aliens and I think shape-shifting aliens. And then, being 2019 is, I don't know how much COVID might have impacted it. I think there were delays of it coming out, like the movie the release date kept getting pushed back and back. So there was a lot going on behind the scenes with this one that just did not help this movie.
Yeah. This is actually the only one from this franchise, from the First Class franchise, that I did not see in theaters. Hearing about the reshoots and the changes they were making, and after the bomb that was Apocalypse, I really did not have an interest in seeing this one, especially knowing that it would be the last, because we had already had where Disney had acquired Fox by this point. And so we knew that Disney was just going to put an end to it. So we knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. And I think that also kind of just made me go, well, I don't know if I want to see it. So I did not see it until it came out on Blu-ray. And of course I did buy it. I mean,
of course you did.
Of course I did. So that was when I watched it. And actually watching it for this episode and doing my research for this episode, was only the second time I had ever seen this movie.
Well, you've watched it more than I have then. Because I did not watch it. Same as you. I watched the first two in theaters. I watched the third one, Apocalypse, streaming. I got into a rut where now I wait until the movie's been out for a little bit before I go and watch a movie in theaters. And so heard Apocalypse wasn't that good, so I was like, I'll just wait till it streams. And then this one, people were saying, oh, it's even worse than Apocalypse. And I was like, well, I'll get around to it, and just never got around to watching it. I actually watched it this week. First time.
That's great.
Only
That's
time.
Because again, as we said earlier, Justin, I think when he signed up for this episode, he thought he was signing up for Apocalypse. So, so there's a little bit of there.
There's so many X-Men movies. But
yeah, I think we're already kind of revealing our final decision, which we'll get to obviously at the end of the show. But what do you think was the biggest problem with this movie? Was it the script? Was it because of the reshoots and the tonal inconsistencies? Do you think there was too much studio pressure? Like, what do you think is the biggest problem this movie has?
In my personal opinion, and of course just watching it once, and even if you didn't know about it, I feel like it's the tonal changes. It just can't really make up its mind what it wants to be. 1 second they're harping on Charles Xavier's kind of the bad guy, the way he was, suppressed Jean Grey's, pain, and, hey, I want to protect you, and we're leaning into Professor X kind of being the bad guy, and then the next minute we got aliens in outer space, and then the next, Magneto's popping up, and it just couldn't really make up its mind what it wanted to do. I'm sure the reshoots and all of that. Honestly, I felt the script was okay, could be a little better, but there's really some acting. There's one particular actor that just did not do it for me. They kind of, I really wish they could have been changed.
Okay, well, we'll definitely get into that when we talk about the cast some. But I agree. The movie didn't know what it wanted to be, or really like how big it wanted to be. It starts off, the astronaut rescue scene is huge and grand and epic and cosmic, and it's a fun scene. You've also got the big train sequence towards the end. Yeah. It's this big scene. And then you got this really weird fight in front of a building.
Yeah, very weird. Yeah, that was like, we're having 5 people out here fighting, causing a big scene on a 2-lane road, and that's going to get the military involved.
And which I get, he wanted that grounded realism. Fine, that makes sense. But then you've got the stuff with the aliens, and I don't think it would be. But before we get into it a little bit more, let's get into the comic book connection.
Step into the panels, heroes in action. Flip through the pages for your satisfaction. Feel the thrill and join a collection. It's the comic book connection.
The film draws from the legendary Dark Phoenix Saga, which unfolded in Uncanny X-Men issues 129 through 138 from January to October of 1980. It was written by the great Chris Claremont and illustrated by the legendary John Byrne. This storyline didn't just redefine Jean Grey, it reshaped the entire X-Men universe. The comics portray Jean's transformation as a sweeping tragedy that is fueled by manipulation from the Hellfire Club, the intoxicating power of the Phoenix Force, and the moral struggle between destiny and self-control. What makes the comic so enduring is the emotional complexity. It's a love story, a psychological drama, and a cosmic epic all at the same time. The film nods to elements of this, especially Jean's internal conflict and the idea of her overwhelming, uncontrollable power. But it trims away most of the political intrigue and the larger cosmic stakes that make the original saga feel so epic. You talked about you read it. What do you think is the hardest part? Because this is now the second try they've had at making the Phoenix Saga pretty much into a film. What do you think is the hardest part of this story to adapt to film?
I think it's getting those three things you mentioned all together and making a good balance. Like, I thought this movie did a pretty good job on the internal turmoil that Jean Grey was going through. You know, she's got all these powers, she can't control it, she's got all these feelings, she's confused. There's a lot of kind of, teenage angst, I guess you could say, almost. And then, like you said, the love story, the political intrigue, I thought they could have dived a little deeper in, especially, I think, it was Mystique's character talking to Charles Xavier about, now because the president's calling you, we have to do what they want. And Charles Xavier says, yes, like, I'm not going to ruin this relationship. They now are accepting us, and if they want us to help, we're going to go help. Like, that would have been a very interesting thing to have dived into a little bit deeper. But then the whole cosmic entity as well. And so it's a little hard when you said he was trying to do a very grounded X-Men, and you have inner turmoil, political turmoil, and a cosmic entity. And, how does this shape not just the Earth, but the whole galaxy? It's a tough thing to pull off.
Yeah, I 100% agree. My notes, I'm just going to summarize, but yeah, it's the scale of the story. It's an epic story, but at the same time, it's an intimate story. And I don't think that either The Last Stand or this movie is able to balance that. I will say they tried, but it didn't work. And I think that is, but let's look at the cast. What do we blame the cast? Do we not blame the cast? I'm curious as to what your thoughts are, because I will say it's clear that the actors in this movie are very capable of more than what this script allowed them to do.
Oh,
we've got Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. She does what she can, but the film doesn't really give Jean Grey the emotion. They try, but it doesn't really give her the emotional complexity that the story actually needs. Like, it's a lot of just one-note scenes, and you don't get a lot of that internal conflict. Yeah, what did you think of Sophie Turner's performance?
She was the one I did not like. And
okay,
you kind of bringing up the script kind of makes me rethink it a little bit, that it might have been the script that was, kind of bringing her down. It's just, after seeing her in Game of Thrones and knowing kind of what she is capable of in that show, I just feel like she did not bring her A game to this movie. And it might have been, hey, it's the last one, I'm just going to phone it in. But it just did not. There are some scenes you could really feel the pain in her face. Like, I can see like she's going through some stuff. And then other ones I was almost laughing at when she's either super angry or super sad. Like, I was on the verge of just cracking up and laughing because it just seems so bad. And I just don't think she's perfected her American accent enough. Her British kind of took me out of it a little bit. Because I was just listening to y'all's episode, you and Tim and the Red episode, talking about Carl Urban not perfecting his American accent. And so that kind of took me out as well. One time she's talking, it's an American accent. The next, she's back to British.
I do see Sophie Turner was very flat. I don't know if they knew this would be the last one, because you think about the way this movie ends with Jean Grey's narration, it kind of sounds like it was going to continue. So I think at the time of the movie being made, they were not aware that this would be the final one. But So I think Sophie Turner may have had the ability to go further. But yeah, you brought up her American accent. I don't know if that played a factor, but she's just very flat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can tell she's actually thinking about the emotion, but she never quite delivers it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to Professor X, James McAvoy. He, I think, is written so inconsistently, as you've already talked about.
Mm-hmm.
It honestly feels like 3 different versions of the character. He's the arrogant mentor.
Mm-hmm.
He's the remorseful leader. And then he's just a plot needed antagonist.
Yeah. They couldn't decide what to do with him. And I mean, he's played so perfectly, though. I mean, the bald cap was a little too much. I think they could have just shaved his head. But, I mean, that's coming from a bald guy when I wish my head was that shiny. But I really wish they had kind of dived into more of how he was leading. You know, now they have, the political intrigue. Now they're accepted and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been very interesting to have seen them kind of stick to their guns on, well, what if Charles Xavier is the bad guy? And the way that now the X-Men are accepted, what's he going to do now? You've reached your goal. Now what? That would have been, I think, a very interesting thing to do with him.
Yeah, I kind of feel like some of the stuff that he did where it became some more of the remorse. And I get that it had to be him because Jean looked into his memories and found out that he really was trying to protect her with her father and really has been there for her. But I almost feel like some of those more emotional moments like that, they could have used Scott a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the relationship between Scott and Jean, you almost forget that they are in a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
In this movie.
Almost more just like best friends than, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Or just a deep relationship. Like, you forget that they have this deep relationship. You see a couple of moments that early on in the movie, and then, of course, he's, wanting to do everything to save her, but it just does not connect.
Mm-hmm. It was almost like they chose some things to treat as you don't know anything about X-Men, and so we're going to explain it to you, and some things were very, hey, I think everybody knows, Cyclops and Jean Grey are an item. Let's just not explain it.
All right, and then we also had Michael Fassbender returning as Magneto. He doesn't show up until about halfway through the movie,
which is a shame.
And he's kind of in a he's kind of just thrown in there. He never really connects to the story. They clearly just put Magneto in it because they knew everybody wanted Magneto in it. And it's clear that Michael Fassbender is trying his best.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm blaming the movie more than the performances here. There's nothing for him to work with. Like, there's no point in Magneto being in this story.
No.
To be honest.
I could see what they're angling for, the whole, spoiler alert. But Raven getting killed and him being upset about it, and this whole, should they kill Jean Grey or should they not? I felt they could have done a better job with that of, we have this family member, this person who's gone off the deep end, they're all powerful. How are we going to handle her? I mean, you could have Brittany and I were watching this, and she was like, oh, it's kind of like Civil War and X-Men of how are they going to handle Jean Grey? Like, are they going to have a big fight?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
no,
that would
they're
be...
not.
No,
they're going to have a little 5-on-5 fight on a street.
Yeah, they're going to have a very terrible fight in a street, and then it's going to be over. But that would have been...
And literally, all of a sudden Magneto's like, yeah, I'm not going to kill her anymore.
I had a change of heart, as he said.
Yeah, so you brought up Jennifer Lawrence, who I think going back to Apocalypse, was already talking about how much she was just done with these movies.
The makeup especially a bit.
So, of course, she goes out in the first 40 minutes of this movie, and I think you could tell Jennifer Lawrence was just ready to go. Her performance, I will blame her performance. It's disengaged.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell she's ready to just be done. And the thing is the movie treats her death as a plot point, not so much an emotional turning point.
Yeah.
It's just it was a way to get to Magneto, is what it was.
Yeah, it was just the linchpin for this to happen, then this happens, then this happens. Yeah, I mean, it was there just, hey, somebody has to die. Who wants off the team? Oh, Jennifer Lawrence? Okay, she's been in all 4.
Oh, but then they also, Evan Peters Quicksilver, they have him get knocked out, and he's out the whole rest of the movie.
Oh, yeah, he never shows up ever again.
Well, no, at the very end, because he tells the kid in the hallway to slow down.
Yeah. Oh, was that him? I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was Beast telling him to do.
No. That was because that was the joke that Quicksilver's telling someone else to slow down. And
and we didn't get one of his special songs and doing stuff like he's done all the other movies.
Yeah, we kind of got. Yeah, we kind of got a little moment where he's saving the astronauts, and then we got what we thought would be a moment when they're actually having to face Jean right before he gets knocked out. But yeah, no, probably one of the most liked characters of this franchise, and I don't know if it was Evan Peters. Maybe he was doing an American Horror Story and couldn't. There was a conflict or what, or Kinberg just did not put him into the story, and it was horrible. Even some of the, like, Storm and Nightcrawler, who are involved with the story, it's almost as if they are just secondary side characters that we just forget about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they just randomly will pop up. Oh, we're going to go on this mission, with you. It was almost like they took a dice and rolled it and like, all right, what X-Men's going to show up in this scene?
Yeah. I will say I do like Nightcrawler's kind of revenge moment when they kill that guard that released them, and he was like, don't die. And then when he dies, Nightcrawler just snaps and just starts taking out the aliens. That's a cool moment.
Oh, yeah. That whole train scene is great.
Oh, yeah. And then you've got your villain for this, the official villain, Jessica Chastain, playing a character that as far as I know, is completely made up for the movie. And again, we got another actor, Jessica Chastain, who can really, elevate any movie that she's in, any project. And here she is as blank and personality free of a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really like she is just a placeholder, and they never could quite establish like what villain they were wanting to use for this movie. And so they just settled on, hey, just random alien. It's such a weak premise that we need this power to rebuild our world.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to rebuild it on Earth for some reason. But she's just so dull throughout the entire movie.
And they go probably 40-ish minutes before they even show up. And then it's another probably 30 minutes before they show up again. And you almost forget about the aliens. You're like, oh yeah, there's aliens in this movie.
Yeah, there's big gaps there, but yeah, man.
It would have done better, I think, if you had taken I can't think of his name, the bad guy from Winter Soldier. Why am I not thinking of his name? Zemo. If you had almost a Zemo character who's just trying to corrupt Jean Grey.
Well, there had been so many hints at bringing Mr. Sinister into some of these movies. And of course, he plays a factor in some of the Phoenix Saga. I get that they had already used up the Hellfire Club in First Class, so they weren't going to bring them back. But I just think maybe Mr. Sinister could have played a factor here. And it would have been a more interesting villain to deal with. And then you've the only other person to mention, which I will say probably had the best performance of the entire cast, and that's Nicholas Hoult, because he actually did bring the emotion. He relayed the actual depth of what was happening. Mm-hmm. He's the only one that really seemed to care about Raven's death. So I think Nicholas Hoult as Beast was probably the best performance, but this whole cast could have delivered something really epic, really incredible. I just think the movie, the writing, the script, the directing, whatever you want to call it, the movie never let them. And so I think Sophie Turner, it was too restrained. She did some of the quieter moments well, but she needed a script that really let her hit that full emotional spectrum that Jean Grey is supposed to be experiencing through this. But again, Nicholas Hoult, I think his character is actually the most layered character, a Beast in this, because he's the one that's grieving over what happened. He's the one that's conflicted because he wants to see Jean die. And so I think there's a lot to that. Was there a performance that stood out to you?
I mean, I'll agree with you with Beast and Nick Hoult. I mean, he was the heart and soul of that whole movie. I mean, he was really the only one, other than maybe Michael Fassbender, during some of his more emotional scenes. But those two, really kind of what they were allowed with the script and limitations of the movie. I thought they kind of brought their A game, and McAvoy always is a delight to watch, even if it is a train wreck.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know about in this one.
All right, we'll be like
Now playing on a cell phone near you, a show for all the manly men out there, where guys talk about their favorite movies and what they can teach us about being a man, featuring the coolest guests.
Murder somebody is not like killing an ant.
The most gratifying laughs.
It's Tombstone, what can I say?
And a fresh take on movies like you've never heard before.
This will be the thing that gets written on his proverbial tombstone.
We aren't here to criticize the movies you love, but to praise them for how they apply to our lives as husbands, fathers, and really all men in general. So buckle up your seatbelts, because Manly Movies is here. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or your other favorite podcast catcher. And remember, man up.
And we're back live. Let the show continue.
All right, well, let's start talking about the movie a little bit more. Let's start off with the story. We've talked about the script, so let's talk about with the story and the problems they had. So what stood out to you as the biggest problem? Because you've talked about this before on the show. What do you think was the biggest problem with the structure of the story in this movie?
Honestly, for me, pacing. And just, it felt like a puzzle piece put together, or a puzzle put kind of together wrong. It was, we start off with that great intro, the astronauts and X-Men have to go and save them and all that, and then just nothing for a long time. We get some internal turmoil, Jean Grey and all that stuff. But I mean, you don't get another big interesting scene, because clearly the fight in the road was not interesting at all. It was more laughable than anything else. You don't really get anything super interesting until the train scene, which is the last, 20 minutes? Yeah, and so it just starts you off going so fast, and then it's just almost a snooze fest until the last 20 minutes. So yeah. For me, pacing kind of killed it. You almost have to you almost have to really get into the internal turmoil Jean Grey's going through. And if they had stuck with that card, it would have been better. They could have slowed the movie down and really kind of had the angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other. In this case, where they could have used Mr. Sinister as the devil on the shoulder. Of these powers that she has and the problems she's going through, and Xavier protecting her, and what really is protection. And so, all of that kind of lumped together kind of just brought the movie down from what could have been a pretty good movie.
Yeah. That kind of the same points I have. I feel that everything either feels rushed or disconnected or just underdeveloped, because you've got scenes in which Jean goes from stable to completely out of control, all in one scene. And her relationship, as I've talked about earlier, her relationships with the other characters aren't developed enough, haven't been developed enough through the previous movies for any of this to really matter. Or at least to us, as we're, as the viewer watching it. And then when it comes to the actual Phoenix power that she's experiencing, the movie can't decide whether it's a possession, like it is a complete, like the aliens tell her, it's this other being that has entered her. Is it her actual power and it's just been awoken? Or is Jean just unstable and it's like she's having a mental breakdown? None of it feels cohesive. And so the movie wants to have these big emotional payoffs, but they don't put forth any of the work to build towards them. But going into the comic book that absolutely does all of that, and since you are familiar with it, does the movie capture anything about what makes the Dark Phoenix Saga so special?
I would say it gets one thing right, but it doesn't do the best job of it, is the internal turmoil that Jean Grey has. The love between her and, Scott, Cyclops, non-existent in the movie. The political fallout, it's kind of there. Cosmic stuff, not really. But I thought they did a decent job. As a teacher, I'd give them like C+, B-, on the trouble that she was going through. Like, you could see it, like you said, Sophie Turner, you see the problem she's facing through her face. You can see the anguish she's going through. I mean, the script didn't really help, but I thought that was the pillar they were trying to build the most, is her struggling with all these new powers and kind of this, turmoil with her and Xavier, kind of this fallout they're having with Professor X. Was kind of the one thing they're leaning toward the most. They kind of built that up, and then they kind of like, oh, look over here, let's try this too.
Yeah. I mean, you give it more than I do, because I don't think it captured anything, because the Dark Phoenix Saga in the comics, it only ran for less than a year, but it was an emotional slow burn. We get the sense that Jean is spiraling out of control, and she's got everyone around her, everyone close to her is trying to grapple with the consequences of that. The movie ignores almost every meaningful element that makes the comics so good, because yes, again, I know they didn't use the Hellfire Club, but they could have used these aliens and had that corruption of Jean through what they do. Have them, You know, we've got where Jessica Chastain's character at one point, Jean asks her, like, how did you know I was here? She goes, I have friends in high places. I think if we had maybe found out that they were more connected with the government.
Mm-hmm.
I know we see the one guy who's apparently works at the White House, but we have that problem. Whether or not they could have tied this with the Shi'ar like they do in the comic, or some other, maybe to make it a little bit more cosmic, I think would be the idea. But it's that gradual loss of Jean's identity. We don't see that. We see her as Jean. We see her wrestling with, you know, the stuff that she's finding out. But then we all of a sudden, she is the villain for 2 minutes in the movie?
Yeah.
So it rushes through the story as if Kinberg just took a checklist and went, okay, we've done that, we've done that, we've done that, we've done that. But none of it is earned. And that's, I mean, I know they can never do comics the true way they should be done. But the tragedy in this story is fleshed out in all those episodes or issues, of the comic. And in this 2-hour movie, nothing is fleshed out. Nothing works.
And let me ask you 2 questions. I want to see your thoughts on this. Would it have made a bigger difference if Jean Grey and Cyclops and some of these characters, instead of being introduced in movie 3, if they had been introduced earlier? Like movie 2, and you had a better relationship with them. You know, flesh the characters out a little more. And then my second one is, do you think the Dark Phoenix Saga in movie form, should it be a 2-parter? Because it's
I'm just going to go ahead and say yes to that.
So in depth that you can spend more time on it.
Oh yeah, I'll to answer your second one first. I 100% agree with that, because I think you can do the Phoenix Saga, because this is what the comics are.
Mm-hmm.
You can do the Phoenix Saga, and then end it with her, her change, and then you do part 2, which is the Dark Phoenix Saga. 100% do I think you can do that, but I'm also going to say yes. I think the movie would have been significantly better if Jean and Scott, especially those two, are introduced in the earlier, much earlier than Apocalypse, because the two of them barely have existed in these stories.
Mm-hmm.
So we're rushed into this grand cosmic tragedy, and we don't care about the bond that they have. We have no emotional connection to them. It's something that you definitely need. And instead, these movies have focused on Charles and Eric, which is why I said they just needed to throw Magneto into this movie. So we don't get the bond of the X-Men. The whole thing this movie's saying about family, because that's when she wakes up at the end, she goes, I have to protect my family. I get the point, but emotionally, they haven't developed that yet.
Yeah. Like you said, they spend too much on the teachers, Magneto and Professor X. They're not spending enough time on the actual X-Men.
Yeah.
Or as they really should call it, the X-Women, because the women are always saving the day.
Well, and I think also, that's why Nicholas Hoult, that performance worked better for me, because that was a story that had been developed for much longer in the franchise.
Yeah, literally since movie 1? When they found out they're both blue. There's 2 characters you spent 3 movies with already, not just 1. It makes me think of, with Disney now acquiring Fox, and if you're going to bring X-Men into this new Marvel universe, it's almost to me like the Avengers. Do you need to set up the X-Men and have multiple movies and build those bonds before you ever start the Phoenix Saga.
Oh no, they definitely need to not go into the Phoenix Saga anytime soon.
No.
Whatever they decide to do with the X-Men. But in terms of the X-Men, this was, for the time being, if you don't count the Deadpool movies, this was the end of Fox's run with the X-Men characters. And I know we've talked about this already, but now that we knew and know that it is a final to the franchise, does it feel like a satisfying ending to the franchise?
Oh, no. Absolutely not. They spent 2 minutes on the conclusion. I mean, the final battle's over, and you get 2 scenes. And then it just ends. Yeah, it was not a satisfying conclusion for the end of a movie or the end of the series at all.
Yeah, it felt to me like if this was a TV show, that this was like the mid-season finale.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, we've ended this part of the story, but we're letting you know that there will be more. Yeah, I just think I kind of wish that the X-Men films were able to give a deserving finale that honored the characters, honored the history. Because, I mean, we had been with these characters for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
From the first X-Men movie to this. And there is no emotional reflection. There's no sense of closure. There's no iconic moment. It's just limping across the finish line. And yeah.
Yeah, if you want X-Men closure, go watch Deadpool 3.
So let's get right into it. Bag it, stack it, or trade it. It's time to decide, Justin. So where does this one land for you and why?
I'm probably going to surprise some people and say stack it.
Okay.
I mean, it was a pleasurable watch. I mean, if you are not the biggest X-Men fan and you are not trying to sit there and nitpick over, this, the animated series did this better, and they left this out. It was entertaining. I mean, the train scene was probably one of my favorite X-Men scenes in a long, long time. Other than the part where Magneto tries to shoot all the guns. It's like you literally just saw one of the soldiers unload his entire clip. Like, what makes you think 20 guns are going to do it? But that fight scene, probably outside of First Class and some of the stuff in Days of Future Past, was probably some of the best fight scenes in all of X-Men movies, to me. And I liked seeing Cyclops. He's always been one of my favorites. Them kind of using his powers correctly, laser beams shooting off of stuff, was nice to see. So, I mean, if somebody wanted to watch it with me, I'd, be like, okay. I mean, I'm not going to watch it on my own, but, somebody comes over and says, hey, you want to watch, Dark Phoenix? Like, all right, I guess.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you, but I'm still going to say trade it. Like you said, there are moments that work. The train scene is great. I like, it's showing off everybody's powers. It's showing them working together as a team versus the street fight that no one's working together really. We do get that one moment of Cyclops helping out Charles, but yeah, it's just the emotional core and the scale that this story needs, it wasn't there. And this is a movie that you say, if someone came over and said, oh, hey, I've never seen Dark Phoenix. You want to watch Dark Phoenix? Even if I went, yeah, sure, we'll watch Dark Phoenix. It's just a movie that I'm sitting there watching. Like I don't get anything out of it. And that's why for me, it's a traded. But let me give you a recommendation. We've kind of already said this. If you want a truly powerful and faithful adaptation on the Phoenix Saga, watch X-Men the Animated Series.
Oh, yeah.
It's season 3. It's episodes 3 through 9. They do the Phoenix Saga. They do the Dark Phoenix Saga. So it has both, and it's able to capture the emotional weight. It's got the cosmic scope of the story. It's got the character depth. And right now, there's been no live adaptation that has been able to match what the animated series did. Of course, you can also go out and read it. But if you're wanting an adaptation that you can sit and watch, you got, let's see, that would be 7 episodes, 30 minutes apiece. So, I mean, it would be like sitting there watching just a really long movie.
Yeah. Knock it out in a couple hours.
Yeah, much better. But any last words, Justin, before we wrap this up?
No. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, where the X-Men kind of land after this, with Disney and Fox kind of, them kind of coming together now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm sure it'll be a few years, but hopefully we'll get, they'll build upon the mistakes and learn from this franchise, kind of like this franchise went from the last one. I felt this franchise was actually better than the original one, so hopefully the one after this will be even better.
We shall see, but let me give you some last lines here. The Phoenix Saga is one of those stories that reminds us how fragile control can be, how power, emotion, and trauma collide in ways that we don't always see coming. So whether it's cosmic fire or just the chaos of life, it's about learning when to hold on and when to let go. But we'll wrap things up for today for Moving Panels. I'm Laramy Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.